What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the A7E podcast. This is your host, Jiggadrin. Guys, today we are on episode 34 of the podcast. Today is a very interesting guest. And to be completely fair, I barely know him, but we did have what I consider a quality interaction at the gym, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But guys, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you enjoy the episode, especially share it with someone that you care about. Or someone that might enjoy the conversation and the stories that you might hear today. Everything that you guys do for me, whether it be listening, subscribing, sharing, I'm massively grateful. You have no idea. But nonetheless, Angel, can you give us, first of all, thank you so much for coming, honestly, for being like open, for, and like I said, we'll get into a story a little bit about how we spoke in the gym, but just like flat out from the back, just being like a quality person and open to, coming to speak to me and then driving to my house. I mean, we mentioned it was like 20 minutes, right? So I'm grateful for that. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Yes, sir. So first of all, right and foremost, I just want to tell you thank you. Thank you, because I was always taught when somebody opens the doors to their residence, it's a sign of respect.
Yeah.
So, being in the Hispanic culture, I want to thank you.
Yeah.
Because not anybody does that, right? As the time that we're living right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My name is Angel de la Mora, and I'm here from the Valley, right? I am born and raised here in the Valley, 37 years old.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So born and raised in the Valley,
Yes, sir.
still here. I know outside of the podcast, you mentioned that you are somewhere in the, what's that, Mission area?
Yes, I live in McAllen, sir.
Okay. Is that always where you were born and raised? Or?
So I was born and raised in Alton.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, man.
Mission area.
Cool. So, guys, just to kind of, the story about how me and Angel met, and honestly, I had forgotten how it is that we even started talking. And on the way here, I was like, how do we even get in contact? And then I remembered what happened. I started laughing because, and I'm not laughing to make fun of the person or to be mean, but so it was a cardio day for me,
Correct.
right? And
Correct.
There was a treadmill next to open to you.
Yes.
And we were just doing our own thing, and then out of nowhere, I don't even know, and I told my fiance this, I don't even know how I looked before it happened, but I'm always like looking around. Like
Yes.
that's just I'm a soccer player.
Yes, sir.
And my position always required me to do that.
Being aware.
Yeah, being aware. And so I look over my left shoulder, and there's this girl that's like walking into what gym has is called the women's only
Correct.
area. And she's on her phone, and man, she's walking at a decent speed, and she slams face first into glass that she thought was the open door.
Correct.
And I saw that, and like I looked away because I didn't want to draw more attention to her. And and I guess you saw it too.
Yes.
And then you tapped me on the shoulder, said, "Hey, did you see that?"
Yes.
And I was like, "Yeah." And I thought it was it was funny. Mm-hmm. It was funny. It was unfortunate. It was like one of those things that you see like in a movie,
Correct.
in a funny scene or like in a TikTok video or something. But she slammed, and I felt so bad because like she was grabbing her nose, and I was like, goodness gracious.
Yes.
But then that kind of goes to show you, it's like, man, like some people aren't aware
Correct.
of what's going on.
Yes, sir.
So that's how we got in touch, right? And we went from there. And that was a quality interaction. We were talking, what do you say, about 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
On the treadmill. You shared a little bit about, kind of like your story, some of the things you did, and it just drew me in. And I was like, this is insane.
Correct.
And that's when I was like, hey, man, I kind of showed you my podcast. Like, I love to do it. And I was like, let's do it, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously it took me about, 3 weeks to kind of get back to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. 3 weeks, and then, but nonetheless, I got back, whenever I settled into my new apartment and got things ready, and we're here now, man. And I'm hoping to kind of hear a little bit more about you and some of your stories, man.
That's good.
So tell me a little bit about, you grew up in Alton, born and raised. When was your first step out of the Valley?
So right after high school, I did the oil field for about a year, and there was a point in my life where I said, I got to do something for me and for myself and for my family. So my brother was in the military, and I decided to join the military. Mm-hmm. And I left to the military when I was like 19, 20.
Okay.
I was actually had never left the valley, never been in a plane, and I was scared. Right, my first duty station was I did basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky, and I was scared. Right, I was scared. I was naive. Right, I had never left my parents. I had never traveled, and left the valley, came back. My first duty station was Fort Hood, and then I was deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Operation Iraqi Freedom, '05 to '07.
2 years.
Yes, sir. I was there from November 2005 till February 2007. Yes, about I want to say about a year and a couple of months.
So how old were you when you actually, made that transition over there?
I was about 23 years old when I
23.
left to. Yes, when I left to war.
2305. So that was no, correct me if I'm wrong. Was that 2 years after, 9/11? No,
Yes.
yeah, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the funny story is I was a manager at Burger King, assistant manager at Burger King. So a little bit about me, right? I've been working all my life since I was like 9 years old.
Okay.
Right. I used to shine shoes at the flea market, and I would always, how they say, I would always hustle. Right. I would always get that grind. I was a very, I guess, a person that always wanted to look at things in a positive way. And so I was actually working at Burger King. I was assistant manager at Burger King when the planes hit 9/11 towers on the morning
Right.
of 9/11. And that day I went to go work, and I was a assistant manager at Burger King at Queens and 23rd Street. I was young, and that day I only sold like $300, which my sales were like 800, 900, 1,200. So all of a sudden, it clicked my mind. I was like, I got to do something. And I joined the military, right? Like I told you before, with regarding the exception of what am I doing of my life, I need to expand
Yeah.
and join the military, the Army.
Yeah. Okay. So Army specifically,
Yes,
right?
Army specific.
So leading up to, your location like in Afghanistan, right?
Yes, Iraq.
Iraq, sorry.
Yes, sir.
In Iraq. So tell me a little bit about, your experience in the military kind of overall, but specifically, in your time in Iraq, right? Because, and in all fairness, I do have a friend, his name's Lucio. He's been on the podcast as well. He was also in the military 4 years, but he was like a canine, something with the canines.
Partly military police.
Something like vet as well,
Okay.
something like that. And he just came back a couple of months ago. So, he shares some stories here and there, but the only stories that I know outside of that
Correct.
is what they show us, right? In
Correct.
the media, the movies and
Correct.
the news and things like that. So there's kind of like two sides to what maybe the average person assumes the military is, or the military lifestyle. Sometimes the media or the movies glorify it, and sometimes the media and the movies kind of do the opposite of that. They demonize it, right?
Correct.
What was your experience when you were in your time over there?
So I'm gonna be honest with you, Adrian, right?
Yeah.
Adrian, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I left, the time frame has changed so much with the society, with the technology, right? Phones. So when I left, you used to have payphones,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So when I left, used to have payphones. When I left, they would, we would go to San Antonio on a van, and then from a van, I mean, it was just they would ship you out, right? And so when I left to Iraq, I'm sorry, and the whole military concept to me was it opened my mind to where you start realizing that there's a world outside of this world, right? It's like, for example, living in a base is 24 open 24 hours. So you start realizing that many things, right? You start realizing when you left to the military is you realize that why your mom, your dad, right, your family members, but especially you learn to value things, right? For example, a fork, right? Just a regular fork that you brought from home, right? You learn to value things. You see things at a different perspective, and it was tough for me when I first left because I was going into a transition of becoming a Christian.
Okay.
And it was tough because my brother was gone. And then my brother was gone. So when I left to actually Iraq, my brother came back. So I didn't see my older brother for about 2 years of my life, because when I left, he came back, and it was just you were by yourself the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the you learn to have different types of feelings and different emotions, and at the same time, it's just you learn that some of the most awesome and environment wise with friends is having that person, you know, when you're far away, because you don't have family members, right? You're by yourself basically. And it was like I said, technology wasn't as it is right now. And you know, I would call home, pay phones, the letters, right?
Crazy.
Yes, the letters. You would receive a letter, call home, and it was, I still remember, right? 55 cents, and then you had to put the whatever. If it was a long distance call, you had to put add the extra change. But it played an important part to where I'm at now, with my discipline, my loyalty, my honor, my integrity, right? My selfless service, and honor,
Yeah.
right? So I think the military was, for me, one of the best things that I've done in my life.
Awesome.
We do live in one of the world's best country, right? In the most awesome country, which is the United States. And then you learn, when I traveled out of the United States and being in Iraq, you learn to see how other people live, the culture, right? How you learn to realize how spoiled we are, right? Just by going to Walmart, just by going to Burger King, just by taking the direction from our parents. Hey, can you get me this, get me that? And it's like, okay. And then you learn how other people live, and it's like, man, you know what? We really have it good. So it was an interesting experience for me. And I believe that everybody now, right? Of course, it's my opinion. I believe that society right now, every young child should go at least 2 years so they could value how important their parents play in their part, how important things are to you when you don't have them, and don't take things for granted. So
That's awesome, honestly. Yes. And as you're saying that, it sounds, and you know what? I've actually thought about it myself. Now, I thought about the perspective that could bring, for sure, even for myself. I'm the type of person that likes to be connected to a lot of things, right? I grew up in a family, you know, my parents specifically have always taught me, you know, whatever you have, be grateful for, because we didn't grow up with much, right? Correct. My parents, you know, they've been working since, you know, they tell me, right? So, you know, since they've been 10, 11 years old, you know, in some of the hardest labors, right? And so they've always taught me and my brother, says like, hey, whatever you have, be grateful for it, you know. And I've always thought, you know, and the stories that I've heard, you know, are just similar to what you've said. And it almost sounds like being disconnecting for a while allows you to be more connected when you come back to the things that are important.
Yes.
And I think that's awesome. Now, this is a completely random question. Would you suspect, or have you heard stories from anyone maybe at all that, you know, would it be similar, like if a person were to go to, you know, military for 2 years, right, have that experience, come back, have that perspective, would you consider jail being similar, like in the sense that where people go away for a certain amount of time and then they come back and then they have, you know, more of a connection, or is it different?
It's totally different, right? Because it's totally different because I feel, right, I think it's my opinion, and then, like you said too, it was a random question. I feel in jail you are hand tied with a lot of things that you can do. But being in the military is, you can, for example, my mentor was the first ever sergeant, and his name was Sergeant Remy, and he finished his associates while we were in Iraq. So being in the military also, I mean, and I don't know how the jail system works, but I feel that being in the military is you can, you have that privilege of traveling, eating whatever food
That's
you
true.
want,
That's true.
right? Just being, I feel that the word, you have to be disciplined in how you manage your time, because it's like a job, right? Being in the military is like a job. Once you do your basic training, you come back. They send you to your duty station depending on your MOS. And MOS is what job you are, right? So my job was a 19 kilo. When I joined the military, that was the first year that the military had a combined arms platoon. So before, the military had armor, infantry, and that this year they tried something different. They combined. So I feel maybe the answer to your question is, I feel that it's different because you don't have that. I
That
guess
restriction?
yeah, restriction,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Being restricted with so many things, and of course, at jail, I've seen some videos, right, where some of these inmates, they've actually gone famous from,
Yeah.
from videos being in jail, right?
Yeah.
Some YouTube videos and stuff. But I guess it's different because, if you go to any job application, right, jail,
True.
your resume, right, or the military, it's the different. But I feel that they have one thing in common, and that's what you said earlier. What you said earlier is, do you think when you leave and you come back, is you will learn value? You will learn value, right? Just by watching TV, just by sitting down and talking to somebody, right?
Yeah.
So that value in that time is priceless.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man, I agree. I've thought that, to myself, like, if I had the choice to, go to jail for like a let's say for a crime that didn't follow me for the rest of my life, right? To keep me, from getting certain jobs, would I, how I've always imagined myself, how would I be in jail? Let's say for a year, 2 years, like how would that be when I come out? I do have a cousin of mine who had went to jail when he was pretty young for a certain altercation that I never, and me and him are fairly close. Like all my cousins were pretty close. I never asked him though. Like I just hadn't asked him specifically, hey, what really happened? I did invite him on the podcast, but he's in Florida, right? And he's like, yeah, if you want to do a podcast online, we can do it. And I was like, would you be willing to share the story? He's like, yeah. So, but I did, he was in there for a few years. We went to visit him in jail, and now he has one of the most amazing lives, right? And he's a phenomenal person. So I've always just imagined that. Now, in your time in Iraq, obviously you were able to kind of see the other side of life. Maybe would you consider Iraq, and I ask you personally because you were there, like a third world country?
yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So you were able to experience that as well, and I definitely agree in regards to us being spoiled over here, man.
And
Yeah.
you know the irony about this question that you just asked me, third world country. Behind the Bible, some of these Bibles have maps, and there's a map. It's the Euphrates and Tigris River. Well, I would patrol that area.
Really?
And it was insane, right? Because I was a gunner on the Humvee, and there was just one day, right, when I just told myself, what is this guy from the valley? Look where I'm at, right? And I still have that Bible. I was gonna bring you some stuff, right? I was gonna bring you some pictures, and I still have that Bible. That Bible I've had that Bible for about 20 something years.
Wow.
But it's on the back of the Bible. There's sometimes there's maps, but it's the Tigris and Euphrates River. So it's just it's a third world country, right? It's I feel, right, that's I saw many different aspects of what their culture is.
Yeah.
Right? What the culture is.
Did you personally experience their culture from their people, or was it more of a how would you call it? Like you experienced their culture from the outside? Like how did you experience their culture?
So when we would patrol, we would always had a interpreter, and he lived there. He was from from that area, but and they always had their face covered, so we don't know who it was, and they would deal directly with the persons from headquarters, and we would always have an interpreter, but we dealt with their culture. I didn't directly deal with the culture because like I said, we would patrol and we would make sure that they weren't doing anything not supposed to, like putting IEDs, but we would learn, right, by observing when the higher ups from the platoon we'll go to meetings, and we would learn certain things, right, from their culture. It's a very different culture than us.
Yeah.
Very different culture. And it was just an experience that it's amazing, right? It was an amazing experience that, like I told my son and I tell my family, it's part of history.
Yeah.
Right? Part of history. So.
Okay, cool. So so the only and guys, sorry, the only reason I pause like that and look at the camera is because the only timer that I have is on the camera, and making sure because most of my listeners know, but if the camera hits 29 minutes, it cuts off by itself, and I don't want that. So, okay, so yeah, you being able to experience that culture, and you say that it's different from ours, and obviously, I definitely, even if I didn't even know much about their culture, I have to agree to. For certain what I believe is obvious reasons, right? Now, let me ask you this. This is a complete out of curiosity. What they depict in the movies, do you watch war movies?
Yes.
What they depict in the movies about like those type of, third world countries, is that pretty accurate for the most part? Or is there a lot of Hollywood behind that?
How can I explain to you? There's some movies that I've seen, right, that have the same, I guess, system that we live, but Hollywood is Hollywood, right?
Yeah, of course.
I feel that some of the movies, and I can't remember it on the top of my head, but some of these movies that I've seen, and when you're seeing it, it's like you go back to that actual like
moment.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. It's like you feel, like whatever's going on in that movie. To me, right? It's my personal opinion. It's my personal experience that happened to me when I have seen those movies, and it's just like, man, it's like I was there, I experienced it, right? And I know there's a couple of movies I can't remember on top of my head, but yeah, you can say that some of the Hollywood has done good research to do these movies. Yes.
I'm impressed.
Honestly.
I've never asked anybody that. This is the first time I asked that.
Yes.
And to hear that it's, for the most part, fairly close or accurate, that's cool. Because I know, like, obviously, from the outside in, when somebody's watching those type of movies, it can seem what we consider cool, right? The way they make it look. But I would assume it's a little bit kind of different being in the action, when you're really engaged, right?
Correct.
Did you ever have any of those moments where you were, like, engaged in, I guess, combat or something like that?
So right, there's something called, right, infantry, right? If you're an infantry person, there's something called the infantry badge, right? Combat infantry badge, which is it's a confirmed, and then like if you're armored, it's a combat action badge. So you're actually involved in combat. So just being deployed, right? People think, oh, he was in war. So being deployed, it takes a very different perspective and what you went through. By me saying this is if I get deployed, right, and say for example I'm a person that supply, right, that's my job, and my job is to supply and put diesel to these or jet fuel engine to these tanks, okay. So there's a difference of being in war, and there's a difference of actually what you said, experiencing war.
Correct.
Right. So, like yesterday I was talking to my wife about it. So, I was able to experience what the other side of war is.
Okay.
Right, and it's not good. Right, it's not good because there's no manual. There's no manual that says this is how you prepare. You can probably prepare yourself physically, right, mentally and emotionally. It comes with the territory, right? So I was able to experience many different events to where I don't like to get too much into detail. Yeah. But I was able to experience events that will traumatize me for the rest of my life. I was able to experience events that they're just certain times that I will talk about them. But these events have helped me grow as a person. Okay. Right? Earlier... and I want to go back, right? I know you, and just to go back, I know you said about being in prison. I feel, and I know a lot of your podcast guests, the word they use is God. So I feel that if you're in prison, I feel that if you're in the military, I feel that if you're gone, because I know you were in Austin for, I was doing my history on in Austin, and I was doing some of the I was just getting familiar, with you as a person. So I feel that God puts people in places. So the places they're at now, you learn to value all that time.
Yeah.
And you can go back and talk about, like right now, right? Like I'm talking to you with the experience that happened to me.
Yeah.
Right, sir? Because never in a million years I would have thought ever that I would be talking to somebody about the experiences, right? And what I've lived. But it's a different atmosphere. War is not fun.
Yeah.
But there's a saying that says freedom isn't free, right? But I can tell you one thing: we live and we are in the baddest and most awesome. We have the United States military, right? Which is your Air Force, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard. I mean,
we're pretty packed out.
You'll be amazed of how cool, like you said, right? The word you used was cool.
Yeah.
Right. These young teenagers playing this video games and this, right? But actually living and experience it, it's. Can you imagine yourself, me and you, right? Going on a helicopter, right? And then say, for example, a Black Hawk. And then the guy just says, 1 minute, 1 minute. You have 1 minute, because in 1 minute he's gonna drop down. Just having that adrenaline, right? He drops down, right? He comes down, and you run, and you either take a knee or you get down, right? You lay flat because it's gonna leave. So when they say 1 minute, that thing has to leave fast because they were scared that the enemy fire was gonna break it down. So you're in the middle of nowhere. It's 1 minute. All of a sudden, just. So if the video game looks cool, can you imagine real life?
Just you saying that, I'm just like.
Right? So can you imagine real life, right? Can you imagine on a tank, right? Can you imagine a tank, putting a what do you call it? Missile? Yeah. Yes, sir, missile. Because that's what I did. My first job was and I would load the missile on a tank. And then seeing the tank just fire and being inside, it's just there's no, I guess, energy drink. No. There's no pre-workout.
There's no shot. There's
right?
nothing,
right? That I can express to you how you feel, but everything comes with its territory, right? Yeah. Everything comes. I feel that the environment that we lived, and now I can express to you, right? But it's awesome. It's just something amazing, right?
Yeah. Man, that's intense. I just hearing you say it like that, I'm just like, what, and I can bet that it was just, and like you said, an undescribable, or I don't know what the word indescribable feeling. So that's incredible, and I think that was a phenomenal way to put it. How you were talking about, there's no energy drink pre-workout to describe that, and I bet just you saying like I guess, what would you call it, the pilot or the captain of the Black Hawk?
So I guess it's his co-pilot, right? Okay, there's two pilots, right? And then the guy just turns back, right? And it's just like he'll say 1 minute. So when he says 1 minute,
it's go time.
Correct. So he says 1 minute. 1 minute, we're gonna get 1 minute to their destination, right? And being in those helicopters is you have. Have you ever seen like those when they drive those racing vehicles that they have their seat belts, and it's like a four-way strap?
Yeah.
So you have a strap here in the middle. So you got to be ready. You got to take it off, be ready, because you have your backpack in the middle. You have your gun. You have all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. So when he says 1 minute, prepare to, when he comes down, either run, get on a knee, or run and just get on the, on what you said in the first of the podcast, being aware, right? Being aware of what's going on. And then so when it takes off with so much force. Right, if you're standing up, it's gonna
knock you down.
Yeah, it's gonna knock you down. It's gonna knock you forward.
So whenever it leaves, right, you're in the middle, and I assume that you're with like a team.
Correct.
Okay, because you made it. I don't know. You made it sound like two people. I was like,
yeah, no.
Okay, so when they leave, when the helicopter leaves, I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere, and I'm assuming that there's people on the other side. Like, how long does that go on before you go back, or?
No, so you always have, right? So one of my first jobs was I was the RTO, which is a radio transmitting officer, and we would work for the security. I was a security detail. It was security detail for the operations major. He's a 2-star general now with the military. So when they drop you off, some of these zones they have already been swept. Right.
Okay.
Some of the zones have been swept. So we'll land in an area where you don't know if we're gonna either crossfire, right? Crossfire, or we're gonna have enemy fire. But most of the time, thank God that when we landed, we never had that situation, right?
Okay.
And it takes off, and you get that radio. It's a backpack. You get that radio, and you get comms, right? And then every time you're reporting, right? You report to your base. Hey, you know what? Hey, we're here at the court. You give them the coordinates, right? And then every time you move, you give them the coordinates. So you have a lot of communication with the actual support, right? With the actual what I say with the company, with the headquarters, and then of course you have your support waiting if something does go down, right? You have your helicopters waiting. You have your tanks. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was your quick response team, QRF. Quick response force, and they're just ready to wherever the battle is going to go at, or wherever where there's a fire. They will have those specific people.
Man, that just sounds so intense. So you went in technically at 19. You went to Iraq at 23. You were there for about a year and a half. When did you officially exit the military?
So many people, there's something called ETS, right? When you ETS, so when you join the military, you can join either, as to my knowledge right now, I don't know if it has changed, but it's 8 years. No matter what, it's 8 years. So for example, you want to go active 5 years or whatever you want to do, but you have to be, there's a time frame of 8 years that you have to be in the military no matter what.
Like almost like standby kind of?
Yes, like, so for example, I did 3.5, I did almost 4 years because I bought some time, right? So every month that you're in the military, you're in 2-day leave. Or every month you're in 2-day leave, 2-day leave, 2-day leave. So at the end of the year, if you don't use those days, you can buy them back, right?
Okay.
You can buy them. So, and I did like 3.5 years, and I did 3.5, but then there was something called, there's two programs, the IRR, Individual Readiness Reserve, and then you can join a reserve, or you can join, or you can extend your contract. But what I did is I was in a program called IRR, and you never know, you had that possibility of getting called back.
Yeah.
So, but if I'm not mistaken, and maybe some viewers will comment on the section, say, you know what, I say it has changed. But when I left, they had told me that it was 8 years for you. You could finish your contract, your active contract, but then if there was say for example, right, another war, right, and you could still get called back.
Okay, within that 8 years.
Yes, sir. Yeah, if you were in that 8 year time frame.
Whew. All right, man. That's awesome. So we're out of the military technically.
Correct.
So, how do we transition back into, because into this world, because, earlier in the podcast, you mentioned it was a world outside of this world.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So how do we transition back after that?
So, Adrian, we call it the civilian world, right?
Right.
And it was, I'm going to be honest with you. And this is, right. This is, it was hard when you get out the military for me, because back then I feel, right. And like, again, it's my opinion. I was, I had no support, transitioning into the civilian life. So let me ask you this. How do you prepare yourself after being, right, overseas in war and seeing all kinds of abnormalities, right? And then coming back to the civilian world where everything's calm. You don't have to wear all this gear. You don't have to get on a helicopter or a tank or a Humvee. How do you transition to that?
Man, I don't know.
Right. So now, as a veteran, now the generation coming out of the military I believe has more support, right? Has more support with the pandemic. What the pandemic did was it opened up more doors to where you can have support from different types of fields, right? Either medical, right? Psychiatric, therapy. So I feel that it was hard for me, and I'm gonna be honest. It was probably the one of the hardest times in my life because I was like, okay, what do I do now? Right? What do I do now? I'm 23, 24 years old. What do I do now? You know, some of the stuff that I saw and observed and felt still haunted me down. It's in it, and it's always gonna haunt you down, right? Say for example, and this is what I tell people. So when you're involved in a car accident, right? You might think you're okay, but then you go to the hospital and you get evaluated and you're not okay, right? So when you come back for war, you think you're okay, but then you get evaluated and you're not okay. So it was a hard transition for me as a person, as a brother, as a father, as a son. It was a hard transition for me.
Yeah.
But I guess, like I said, I know a lot of your guests, right? The man upstairs, he was with me the whole time.
Yeah.
So.
If you don't mind me asking, do you, and I agree with you, pointing out that, the majority of my guests always have, essentially God at the center of their life, right? Was that something that was always, how do you say, was that always your, were you always like that? Or did that happen or amplify or magnify more when you came back from the military?
So, like I said, coming back from the military actually amplified me realizing that things happen for a reason and God is powerful. Of course, I'm entitled to my opinion. That's my opinion, right? But it was how can I explain to you? It's an unexplainable to me. It's a mix of emotions, right? Because there's times that I would question God.
Of course.
There's times that I would be like, is this it? What else? What do you have for me? But I was naive of the direction that I was taking an approach to God because I wasn't talking to God. I was wanting and wanting and wanting, but I was never asking for the right direction, the support, right? There's I feel, like I said, this is my personal opinion. You don't have to go to a church, right? My personal opinion, to talk to God. Me and you can talk to God right now, right? And I felt that I didn't know how to ask God for the things that I needed in my life. And it was a hard transition because coming young from the military, experience all this, again, this is crazy, dramatic experiences. And I was like, what am I going to do now? Right. So it took me a while. And again, with the help of God, my father was there with me. Most of the time, he was always there with me. And then it took me about 6-7 months to actually transition back to civilian life.
Like adjust?
Yes, adjust.
Yeah.
Yes, adjust.
Would you, you and your family, do you consider you and your family close? Or, is it, because, and that's how I always like to kind of get the feel of that, because me and my family are ridiculously close, right? I do feel lucky that my whole life, my parents and my brother have been, man, like, you can't get any closer, in my opinion. How is that similar to yours, or is it a little different?
So this is $1 million question, right? My family, I guess, throughout the years, people say they grown apart because of different type of lifestyles. But family will be family. And I think I always have had the support from my mom, especially, right? My father, brother, sister. It's the support is there, but it's not as close as I want it to be.
Okay.
Right. I know it could be better, closer, but there's different types of, I guess, perspectives, opinions, viewpoints of things, and I have to respect their point of views, but the support was there, but more I have immensely gotten the support from my wife's family, right? Her aunt, her mom. That's the moral support. Sometimes you don't need economic support.
Right.
Sometimes you don't need the different type. Just the moral support. It plays an important part in somebody's lifestyle, and I think the support was there for my parents, but it's different, right? When you have somebody else. It's different when you have somebody else that analyzes and says, you know what, how can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do this? Can we do that? You know, so I feel that, yes, it was, the support was there, but
not how you needed it, maybe?
I guess it was different because, okay, let me get into this. We're going to get into this.
Sure.
You have a person that comes back from war, right? And Adrian is crazy. Adrian doesn't sleep all at night. All that Adrian does is sleep, eat, work out, sleep, eat, right? So how can you call somebody crazy if you haven't asked them how, what, and when? How, what, when did you feel or need to feel now the need of asking for help? So how do you do that, Adrian? How do you support somebody, or how can you give somebody a support if you're not on the same page?
Oh, 100%.
Right. What I want to get to is we are, and and this is true. The audience can say it, and you can probably vouch for it. We're very easily triggered by us, our culture, the Hispanic culture, right? We're very easily quick to give an opinion.
Yeah.
Right. Without knowing the backlash through all this person is going through. Right. So I feel that you can't say somebody's crazy. You can't make a derogatory comment, because if you haven't lived it, if you do not know that what that person went through, and if you're not there to help him and support him, why would you want to criticize him?
Yeah. 100%.
When he fought for your country and for your freedom. Why are you easily triggered by the way his actions are when he comes back from war, but you don't realize that this person right here fought for war, was in war, went to war because of 9/11 while you were out in college, while you were doing your thing, right? How come you don't look at it in that point of view? You get my point of view?
Of course. And my thing is, you're right. I mean, it's really hard, to really give any or to say anything negative about someone who had a certain period of their time or their life that they went through that you really can't relate to on any standard. That's why I ask you these questions, is because as much as I want to, I can't relate. Maybe the closest that I can get to that, war feeling or adrenaline is an energy drink for me, So it's hard for me to, no matter what you did when you came back or you didn't do, I could never look at somebody and be like, oh, this person is that, or this person is, because I have no idea what this person went through. Especially to that degree of intensity, right?
Yes.
So, no, I completely get that, and you're right. I mean, I almost say, and that is to some degree what our culture consists of. They're very fast. Sometimes, we can be very fast to make opinions without asking first to see if we can understand first before we make that opinion. But I mean, that's just like you mentioned, the reality, and I can't vouch for it because I mean, maybe it hasn't been to that degree, but I have been involved in those moments where I share certain things and, boom, right off the back, there's an opinion that there's like, so you didn't even hear me out. Like, I'm not even done yet, know? So yeah, man, I can see how that can be tough.
And I chose my words carefully.
I know.
I chose my words very carefully. But at the end of the day, right, there's a saying that says, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I know that I have the support from my family if I need it. But um, but every it should be you scratch my back, I scratch yours. But sometimes the situations don't play that way. So I feel that everybody's entitled to their own opinion, their own emotions, and their, like you said, the ordeal behind a situation, right? But I chose my words carefully because I just don't want people to be, well, and at the end of the day, you'll never have people happy.
Of course.
At the end of the day,
Not everybody.
of course, it damn if you do, damn if you don't. At the end of the day, it's, I'm gonna say what I feel, but I'm gonna say you're gonna do what you want to do, right? And at the end of the day, it's only you and me know what we feel.
Yeah.
So.
And you're right, man. And I want to make that very clear to the audience is that if any time in your life, it's going to be massively rare if at any point in your life you have everybody happy with the things that you're doing, right?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, you're going to have, it's really almost impossible to please everybody.
Correct.
And honestly, to me, like, you shouldn't even be trying to live in a way to please everybody.
Correct.
You should be living in a way to please yourself, right?
Yes,
or, to do the things that you have that you want to do. And those who want to come along will come along without you even having to ask.
Yes.
They'll see the way you're living. They'll see the things that you're doing, and they'll look at you and be like, hey, I support that. I'm with him, or I'm with that person. I want to come along. And those who don't, who look, from the outside in and look at you in a negative way, they'll step away themselves. And I think it's just a natural selection of support, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's that's something that's very important. Now, if you don't mind, because obviously I want to be massively respectful of your time. So we're back. I know that, in the gym, you mentioned to me, and I looked at it briefly as well. You were, now, was it specifically in Sullivan City that you transitioned into the police force?
Yes. So when I got back, my first duty station when I was an officer, I was Hidalgo PD. Mm-hmm. From Hidalgo PD, I transitioned into Sullivan City PD, right? I became an officer, right? Now we're not, and then got good. God good. When I say God good, is my emotions, my health, my state of mind was better.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, it took me that transition, 6-7 months to transition, and got a job in law enforcement, right? And of course, I was there in Hidalgo for about a year and a half or two, and then I want to say Sullivan, I was there for about 5 years, sir. Yeah, in Sullivan City.
5 years.
Yeah.
And we ran into a situation. Would you call that would you call that situation controversial, or would you call that situation? How would you categorize or label that situation that happened with you? So I want to give it like a quick little, like, not story intro, but like, you showed me a video, right? And it's on YouTube. And maybe I don't even know if I can do that, but maybe I could put the link in the description. But there's a video of you on a police chase.
Correct.
You are the driver?
Correct. I'm the driver of that vehicle.
Yeah.
Not of the
No.
that has
no, you're not being chased.
Yes.
You are chasing. And that does come, eventually it does come to an end. You get out of the vehicle and there's shots fired.
No, there isn't shots fired.
No. Okay. No. So you say, no, you have a partner with you.
Yes.
And somebody says something like, in Spanish, of course.
Yes.
I can't remember exactly what it is,
Yes.
but when it comes to a stop, right, where everybody stops, what happens after that? Because there's no more of the video.
Correct.
What happens after that?
So on that video, right, that particular video, it didn't go viral, but that many people criticized it, right? Because they're saying, the cops, the way they're talking to them, and you know what, they're Mexican, and you know how it is, right? Mm-hmm. You know how people are very easily, and they, without knowing the whole situation, right, criticize.
And especially online as well. I want everybody to know that it's people already give their opinion fairly quickly in person.
Correct.
Even more so online when you just see something and you can type it. Right. Correct. So tell me a little bit more.
So we had that, it was a pursuit. We were able to get the the driver off the, and it was all over YouTube. It's Párate AOV, right? With the vulgar language, AOV. People from the valley know it's a common word that's used in the valley, but and we were able to get the individual, and people criticize that video a lot, but to me now I can talk to you because to me people don't know the backstory about that video. The actual story about that video is that guy had marijuana, right? And I'm not gonna say his name, or that individual had he had drugs in the vehicle, and okay, does that make him a bad person? No, right? He's a human being, right? It is what it is. But if you study that video and if you put that link on that video, I tell him something in Spanish, and this is what I told him. I tell him, ¿por qué estás manejando así? ¿Por qué no te vas pa'l monte? So me being like, still, right, we apprehend him like, hey, why are you driving like this? Why are you going crazy? Just stop. You know, I mean, I'm not hindering, but what I was just like, it's like, if whatever you're gonna do, don't put other people in jeopardy. Don't put other people, right? Don't. I mean, you do you, right? But people don't realize, and there's a lot of people that criticize it because the way we talk to them, right? Oh, okay, we shouldn't. But at the end of the day, nobody got hurt, right? The individual was respectful. We did our part. He did his part, and at the end of the day, nobody got hurt, right? So what I want to get to is, I didn't put him in that situation. He put himself in that situation, right? People's actions, right, have a reaction. So his action, two things: either if he was going to get to his destination, he was going to get paid, okay? But what happens if he didn't get to his destination? Well, you had that chance of him getting stopped by law enforcement. So I was just doing my job.
Yeah, of course.
Right? But it was a video that, like I said, many people would see me, oh, that's the guy from Párate AOV. And like, at the end of the day, I'm human. I go to the restroom, right? I eat, I sleep, right? I have feelings and emotions. I'm not a robot. And I've never talked about this to anybody, right? But at the end of the day, right, the media, social media platforms, they create this image of the the new social media. They trend of gossip, drama, ordeals, right, sir? At the end of the day, right, like I said, you can't have people happy. And I've never talked about this, but at the end of the day, right, I'm here, like I said, we showed respect to that person. Even though he was doing something illegal, we showed respect. We did our fair part. We treated him with respect. And people don't understand that after, chasing somebody, it's like that adrenaline, right? It's adrenaline. It's a feeling that it's undescribable. But everybody went home safe. Yeah. You can say. Yeah. Everybody went home safe.
Man, and then, that's how it should be. Like, whether you're on the legal side of things or on the illegal side of things, if it all comes down to it, and you're the bad person here, I put that, in quotes, but if you're the bad person, you get caught, like, you got caught. Like, you can still be, respectful about it, and I love the fact that that's how it went down. Yes. I love that you cleared that up. And now, one last thing that I want to ask you before we, wrap it up towards the end. It was very interesting because you sent me you sent me a link where you were arrested.
Correct.
Now, I'd like for you to share a little bit more about that because I think it's super interesting. And the reason why I think it's most interesting specifically is because about the headline that was out about it.
Correct.
And the way it just sounds off the back.
Correct. And
if we add logic and reason to it, it just almost like if anybody could just read that headline and be like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know how recent it was, but it wasn't that recent, correct?
Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, but at the gym you shared the story with me, but then later on you texted me the link that you were arrested. Tell me about how that ended up happening.
So now, right? So having that video, getting this, these a lot of opinions from people, right? Because I was one, chasing the bad guy in quotations, right? Because nobody's a bad person. Everybody, I think, has a heart, and everybody has emotion and shows love somehow, some way. Now I'm on the other side, right now, because I was featured. There was back in the day, in National Geographic had a show called Border Wars. So I was featured in an episode of Border Wars called Dead End of Alamo, and I also had a live pursuit, and it was good. The dead of the, and now, I get caught in this situation where now I can speak about it. I never spoke about it. This is the first time I've ever spoken about it, and let me be clear on something. Is you cannot drive a vehicle looking at your rearview mirror. So you got to look forward. So this is in the past, but sometimes, right? This is I've never talked and I've never cleared what actually happened. But at the end of the day, like I told you, we were cleaning up the evidence room, right? And one of my family members had gout, and they had told me that marijuana in an alcohol bottle, which is green rubbing alcohol, soothes the pain when you have gout, arthritis. So I had asked the individual, I'm not going to say what, or I'm not going to go into details, right? But I asked the individual, and if I could get some, and this, let me just be mindful that this marijuana had no, so we had this area where if the evidence had no subject, like for example, had no person of interest, or the person went into the river and flew back into Mexico, or I'm sorry, swam back into Mexico. You had no, I guess, I can. You had no person of interest, right? So it was just evidence.
Yeah.
And you go through a process with the DA, district attorney, and you know what? Okay, we'll burn it, right? And we would burn it, and I got some, put some in an alcohol bottle, and. About 2 minutes later, about 2 or 3 days passed by, and then, the Texas Rangers were raiding the police department, I was in trouble, right? I was in trouble, and I just want to make it clear too, Adrian, and this is I've never said this before, but the guy that actually called the Texas Ranger, you know who you are. I just want to make sure that, you know what, dude, I want to thank you because my life has gone better, and you actually closed the door in my life to where at first I had my mixed emotions whenever I ever saw you. But you know what? You did me a favor. I was able to finish my bachelor's, my associates. I'm well off right now. So I want to tell you thank you because you actually did me a favor of getting me out of there.
Yeah.
So, right, I was in trouble, right? The media portrayed this whole situation, right? And I send you some of the links, right? Border Star, Angel de la Mora will not serve jail time and all this craziness, right? The media just sent something out without knowing the backlash to it. I have a son.
Yeah.
At that time, my son was 14, 15. The media didn't care if my son's friends would be like, oh, look, your dad this, right? My career was over, right? But remember earlier in this podcast that I told you support? So I had the moral support and from my wife's mom. She was there with me when I was going to court, right? The moral support was there. And it's insane how now I can talk about it 6-7 years later that passed by. And now I say, God, you know what? That was your plan. That was your vision. Because what happened to me, like I told you, put marijuana in an alcohol bottle. And then all of a sudden, I get in trouble. I get a call from the Texas Ranger. And I go talk to this person. Okay. And if you put the link in the description, and this goes to the audience too, and hopefully they comment down, is why cop who seized tons of marijuana, stolen handful. Does that make sense to you?
I mean, it didn't make sense to me whenever when you first told me, and then when I read it.
So if I seized tons, right?
Tons. Yeah.
Tons. Why would I steal a handful?
Yeah.
Why would I just still have a ton?
If you were just stealing it.
If I was just stealing it.
If you were just stealing, yeah.
So I feel that, again, all the hosts and guests in your podcast are firm believers of Jesus Christ. The plan was there. You know, if that wouldn't have happened to me, I would have never left.
Yeah.
And I would have still been there, or maybe, got in, different situation. But at the end of the day, right, I want to just express to a lot of these individuals that were involved in drug running business and stuff, very respectful persons. And people portray an image, again, like the media does, with white cop who sees tons of marijuana, stole a handful. There was never stolen. And you use marijuana. What do you do with marijuana? You smoke it. Mm-hmm. So you have marijuana in an alcohol bottle. You
probably can't smoke it, right?
So you probably can't smoke
yeah.
it, right? And one of the questions that was asked to me was, are you selling this stuff? So this is something like I mentioned. It hurt me, right? But it didn't kill me.
Yeah.
And there's this saying, you're a guy that does CrossFit. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So I feel that people need to realize that every person is somebody's loved one. I'm somebody's son.
True.
I'm somebody's loved one, right? I have kids and I have a family that depends on me, right? I am the breadwinner to my family. And the support that I have had through this transition over the years has been amazing, from the people, special people that they know who they are, right? And my boss, right? My boss, my current boss right now, and my organization that I work for, has given me the immense support that you have no idea.
Really? Right?
And this comes from some of our operations managers, some of the head honchos, how they say in an organization. This were the words. Angel, I don't care where you were at. I care where you're at now. And you're a hard worker. My boss too said, Angel, I don't care about that. I thank you for letting me know, but I love the way you are. Keep on doing what you're doing. So it's amazing how things happen in somebody's life, and it just makes you realize that things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree, man. And I think if you guys get the chance, do check those links out. Even if I don't think they're going to be hyperlinks, but if you copy and paste them into your browser, you should be able to see it. And I think that's just intense. And you're right. A lot of things do happen for a reason. And, you mentioned to me briefly about your current, lifestyle at the moment, or, your livelihood. And it's incredible. It's incredible just from what you've told me.
Yes,
one thing that we do have to be aware, though, about the media is you're right. They don't care. They don't care about who you are as a person. They only care to paint a certain picture that they can sell to anyone that's wanting to read it. The worse, the better.
Correct.
Pretty much, right?
Yes.
And then they don't take into consideration people's families and, the narrative around that person for their future.
Correct.
And I love that your boss told you that in regards to support, because I agree. It's not about what you've done. It's not about what you've done, or where you've been, and it's about where you're going, right?
Yes, sir.
And
yes.
every day that you wake up, you really do have a chance and choice to decide where it is that you're going.
Yes.
If you want to continue going in the same way you've been going in your past, and that's totally up to you. But just because you've been somewhere in your past negatively doesn't mean you have to continue that way. Okay. And that's and you're very lucky to have bosses especially, yes, to be able to understand that concept.
Yep.
I think now, you're right. It doesn't matter, what any person has ever done. Truly, if you're just even, for example, let's say I was a bad person today, and I was doing just a lot of controversial stuff and negative things. I could literally wake up tomorrow and prove to everyone that I'm no longer that person, but through my actions.
Correct.
Right? It doesn't really matter what you say against the things you've done until you've actually proven patterns and behaviors, yes, that you're no longer that person.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a firm believer, right, that every action has either you're proactive, right, or you're have what's it called? How can I explain to you? Either you are every action has a reaction,
Correct.
right? But either are you being proactive, right, about it, or what are you doing about it?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was a roller coaster through that time frame. But guess what? Now I can sit down with you, with anybody, and say, you know what? Now I know the man upstairs had a plan for me,
Mm-hmm.
and the plan for me was first of all, right, to not doubt him, because remember at the end, first at the podcast, I would doubt him,
Right.
and then so now as each day passes by, is when I wake up in the morning, I say, you know what, Father, surprise me, guide me and help me throughout the day, right? Because we all have gone through struggles, emotional, physically, financially, somehow in our lifestyle, that we are at a point where you get to a point where, you know what, you don't want no drama, or how they call it here in the Valley, chisme, right? We don't want none of that. We just want to be right.
Yeah.
We just want to be right. We just want to have a good time. And you cannot buy time. There's a saying that says you can have the most expensive watch, but can you buy time? So, you can't buy time. So I feel that, you're lucky to have the family you do, right? I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and this is no BS, right? I take things for granted, and I'm a firm believer, and this is hopefully one day you'll go to my house and then visit me, but I'm a firm believer, whatever God gives you right now, take care of it.
Yeah.
Because how can you get something better if you don't take care of what you have?
That's right.
So, I want to thank you for having me, my son, and opening the doors to your house.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not a stranger. I have a good heart, and you have a good friend here for any day of the week. You have a friend.
Thank you. Honestly, I appreciate you. And guys, this is the first time that me and Angel, meet, outside of the brief interaction we had at the gym, and I appreciate you, honestly. I do like to consider that I pick people that I interact with, and I pick people that I share my time and energy with. And then right off the back, you show that you're a quality person. Just from the things that you said and the way you're saying them, you can tell immediately what a person has in their heart is with the messages also that they're trying to deliver. And it was very obvious that you were, a quality person. So I appreciate that. And yeah, man, I would definitely love to come over, at some point, to kind of see what's going on over there, right? Get the vibe and energy there. Can you pass me that candy real quick? So when you got here, before we kind of wrap it up, so Angel's wife, right, sent me these, what does she call them?
Candies?
So they're like pica candy, like they're
chamoy?
like they have like chamoy, and if you're in the valley, you've probably seen them, right? And I've had these in the past, not these specifically, but some similar, and they're delicious, right? I love the concept with candy and chile and chamoy, and that could be trechas or lucas, something like that. So
secret recipe.
Yeah. And she's doing this from home?
Yeah, she's doing it from home, but she said, I said, I'm going to give one to you, right? So here you go.
Yeah.
Right, and this is...
Yeah, so my fiance is addicted to these. No, honestly, she's addicted to these. She'll get these every once in a while, and when she does, I'll have some. So, yeah, I mean, is she selling these at the moment, or is it more?
She does just orders.
Okay.
Right? She does orders, whatever you need, whatever you write specific order. Just let her know what time, because she'll have to buy the ingredients and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a special recipe that she doesn't share with nobody.
Yeah, for sure. And well, I mean, if you don't mind, how can if someone's listening and they want to try out these pica candies that are local, right? I'm sure she's not like shipping it or anything like that.
No, not.
Yeah.
Yes, she does.
Ships?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So, I mean, how can, they get to, if they wanted to support, how can they do that?
I think we don't have social media.
Yeah, no
at
problem.
all. So I just the phone number, right? There's a phone number. It's 956-599-1842.
Okay. Yeah.
956-599-1842.
Yeah. And I have a very, like, I would like to say I know 95% of my audience, or 90%, and, they're all very respectful. And I think that, if, they have that phone number, it would only be to support and just, yeah. But yeah, man, thank you so much again for coming through. I really appreciate it. I always tell my guests that this doesn't have to be the only time we do this. Obviously with your life experience, I can imagine that we could always do part 2, part 3, and we can organize that in the future.
Yes.
And guys, for those of you that didn't know, Angel had his son here, Emiliano. He's behind the camera, right? So he was here listening. And like I said, I'm hoping to be able to have a setup where we can have the listeners also kind of tune in, as we're doing the podcast. But yeah, man, again, thank you so much. Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you for the invite. Like I said, God bless you. Right. This is the start of a new journey, the start of a good relationship. And thank you for your words, quality. Right. It's hard to meet quality people, and I know you have a big heart too. So thank you for giving me the time to me and my family, and giving me the support so I can express a little bit of information to everybody out there that you think you're going through a situation, especially law enforcement, right? Law enforcement right now is trending number one in suicide. So if you are and you think you're going through a situation where like mine happened, that you thought you were going to lose everything, remember the man upstairs has something prepared for you, and nothing is forever. There's nothing is forever. Everything is timely.
Yeah.
Right. I think I was reading one of your podcasts. Is everything is it goes by time. Your fame is time, right? Being at the bottom of your life is there's a certain time. So nothing is forever. So, to all the people listening out there, like I said, especially law enforcement or people that are just going any type of ordeals, divorce, or any type of situation that you don't think you might get off. I think that I'm a living experience and a testimony to say, you know what, things will get better.
Yeah.
Things will get better for the better.
Yeah. And guys, remember, at the end, everything's going to be okay. And if things aren't okay right now, it's because it's not the end. All right. So, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in to episode 34 of the A7E podcast, guys. This is your host, Jiggadrin. Please remember, share it, like it, subscribe it, comment, anything that, in any of my podcasts. I'd like to interact with you as much as possible. So please, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, guys. Thank you.